What's up, TCC, TU, and ORU? It is Samson here again for another episode of The Fitting Room, and I just want to say thank y'all so much for tuning in. Thank y'all so much for following along. I appreciate each and every single one of y'all. And I want to make sure I mention, just in case you don't know what The Fitting Room is all about, we are just discovering students, college students specifically, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and even more specifically at TCC, TU, and ORU. And so, if you are a student or if you're just curious to go along with the journey, I want to encourage y'all to subscribe, follow along as we dive into these amazing stories. All right, so now, without further ado, we have a guest with us today. And so I'm super excited to dive into this guest story. And this individual's name is Joey. What's up, Joey?
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so I was a student at TCC, and right now I'm taking a bit of a break, and I'm going to start a new program in the fall at Tulsa Tech, a legal assisting program, and I'm really excited for that. I've been trying to get into it for 2 years. If you don't know, they only do one program.
Okay.
Like they only run it once a year, and it's only one class.
Oh,
So it's real difficult to get into because you're competing against adults and like high school students.
Oh, that's intense.
So yeah.
No, that's what's up. Thank you so much for being willing to come on and share your story. I'm super excited to dive into it. And so, without further ado, why don't you tell us how'd you get here?
So when I graduated in 2022, I started out at a university in Claremore, Rogers State University, and I was there for a semester. But
And just out of curiosity, what were you studying at Rogers State?
So I didn't have a major at first, and then I decided on poli-sci. At the time, I was really big in politics and really into the news and everything, which I feel like is a really big thing in our generation. A lot of generations before were not as focused into politics, and I think it is a big example of what like all of social media and news outlets have been thrown into our face.
Yep.
So we are kind of forced to care more, and I don't know. For me, it was like I come from immigrants and different backgrounds, so for me, it's really important, and I wanted to do that and focus on that. But I ended up switching over to communications.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of just like a broad major where you can find a job anywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, right now I'm taking a break. I've unfortunately taken like 3 breaks at this point, and I think it's been 3 years since I graduated now.
Yep.
But I'm focusing on trying to like start over, start new, and do something that's good for me and might be a little bit better for me.
100%. And so I'm curious as to, I guess, what made the transition over to communication. I know it's a little bit more broad, but
Yeah.
what was it that drew you to doing or jumping into communications?
I feel like it's easier for me, and then wanting to learn more about what like every business.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like one thing that is everywhere.
Yeah.
You can't escape it. You're going to have to learn how to talk to people. You're going to have to learn to, communicate with people that you might never communicate with if you didn't do that job.
100%.
Like
So communications is one of those things that's like in every business, every space. And so you're like, man, let me tap into communications and see. No, that's what's up. And so do you feel like there's a specific area in communications that you gravitate towards, or just the general concept?
For a while there, I thought maybe like public relations, marketing, but never really committed to one.
Yeah.
Just the general concept in general.
Okay. No, that's what's up. So when you were at Rogers State, were you, and I'm it may just be my lack of knowledge. They have like a dorm and the whole. Were you on campus or were you kind of commuting?
Yeah, so I was on campus, which I could have commuted as well. I only live like 15 minutes from there in like the Owasso, Connsville area. So it wasn't too bad, but I wanted the experience
Yeah.
of living there and not living in my parents' house, basically. Um, but I think it kind of, for me, what's that word? I'm sorry.
No, it's all good.
It led to my mental state, like,
Mm.
because I didn't share a dorm room or anything. It was just me on my own, and I just kind of felt like that lack of support being in the dorm. And I had a few friends here and there, from high school that were there, and I had a good time, but I was just not in a good mental state.
Yeah.
And with my parents, like, I felt like they almost kind of had forgotten about me, even though I was like 15 minutes away. Like, no calls, no texts. They would come visit. It would be like me looking for them a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I think I just need to go home.
No, I respect that. It's interesting because I feel like, well, especially hearing your journey, your stories, like Rogers State, which is not extremely far away, but you wanted this dorm experience and this on-campus experience. And I just feel like a lot of students maybe experience that, where they go away for college and it kind of almost can feel isolating.
Yeah.
Because you grow up in a home and you're surrounded by people, how,
Right.
24/7, maybe even some annoying siblings, some parents that's trying to get in your business. And then all of a sudden you're on a campus and you're by yourself and it's like, oh man, this feels a lot different.
Yeah.
And so do you feel like that maybe played a role in you wanting to leave Rogers State and come back home? Or what do you?
I think so. I feel like I was definitely very isolated. I miss being around like my siblings. I have 3 siblings, full house. So it was definitely different, and being by myself, and also kind of like that lack of routine,
Yep.
because it's like the first time you're thrown out into the world and you're like, okay, figure it out. You gotta discipline yourself, you gotta be strict on yourself. And I definitely, like, at first I was like, okay, I can do this, and then it just like went downhill.
Yeah.
And I had a really hard time even coming to terms with it. And I was just like, I don't know for sure that I wasn't diagnosed like with depression or anything, but I was having a hard time.
Yeah.
It was struggling to get out of bed, going to classes. Thankfully I passed all my classes there, so it wasn't just like a complete waste.
Solid.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a hard time, being away from my family. And then I have a little bit of a complicated family dynamic. I might not get too into it, but it's just not a lot of support there.
Yeah.
I love them. Will never hold anything against them, but
Yeah.
my voice went out, so sorry.
No.
But yeah, it's just not a lot of support.
Yeah. And so do you feel like coming back home, and how long, I'm not sure, how long were you at TCC when you came back home?
A semester or 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you feel like coming back home and being at TCC and being at home, did you feel that kind of support come back around, or did you still feel that isolating feeling?
So, a little bit of both. So at first it was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna like power through, keep going. I can't just quit. And I feel like it was also like a pressure from my parents, like, okay, well, you came back home, you have to keep going. You can't take a break. And they also were like, we did all this for you. You need, like, we're not doing this for you not to do anything.
Yeah.
And I kept going, and I feel like I just cracked under the pressure. And I was like, yeah, no, I can't keep going. So I ended up just working. And finally I was like, okay, I'll try again, TCC. And I think there was like 2 semesters where I dropped all my classes. And it was like towards the end of the semester, like I would do okay, and then I would just like get overwhelmed, and I'm like, okay, everything just like, I let go of everything. Yeah. So I had a hard time, because it's also like, you don't want to do that. you want to succeed and you want to see yourself succeed, um, and seeing yourself fail, it makes you feel so much worse in that way. And you just want to keep going.
Yeah.
But you can't. Like, you can't push yourself through. Like, you will crack.
100%.
So, yeah, I just kept going, and I ended up working like 3 or 4 different jobs. Not at the same time. I wouldn't have been able to handle that, but like 3 or 4 different jobs throughout the years. And I finally got a full-time job last year and was going to school part-time at TCC, like night classes and everything. And I was doing well. And last year, I tried to get into the legal assistant program, but I applied too late.
Yeah.
So, missed it by like a point. And then the week I started my new job, the full-time job, they had just started classes, or were going to start classes soon. And they asked me if I wanted to take the class. And it was like, it's Monday through Friday during the day. So I had to turn it down, unfortunately. And I was like, well, I guess I'll have to, like, if it's meant for me, I'll try again. I'll try to get in next year. And so I was able to get in, and the company I was with at the time, they were telling me, you know, like, we should be able to accommodate your school schedule. You probably won't be full-time, but we'll be able to work with you. But when I let them know in March that I would got into the program, they weren't able to. So they just recently let me go this past week. So I just started 2 new jobs. Wish me luck.
That's the one. Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah. Back into retail and food. I'll be honest, I've missed the chaos. Sitting in an office, I get a little bored.
Were you saying you missed the chaos of being in what space?
Retail and food.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Those are some of the most chaotic spaces.
Yeah.
Dealing with customers every second.
And I mean, I've worked several different jobs in like the food industry and the retail industry. And I definitely missed it. I definitely did. Don't know why. I guess I just like the fast paced of it all. I don't know.
No, I respect that. And so you were talking about getting into this program at Tulsa Tech. And so how was the, I guess, or what was the first moment you were like, I want to apply for this. Like, I want to do this. I want to jump into this space. What was kind of maybe the background behind that, the reasoning to jumping into there?
So for me, it's also, I don't really get a lot of financial aid, and I pay for school by myself now. And Tulsa and like Tulsa areas, they have a lot of resources that I did not know were there when I first started going to school, going to college. And this is your sign to look into all those resources, guys, because I had no clue. Tulsa Tech does free tuition until you're 23.
Oh.
So I'm going to take advantage of that. And I think if I'm done with the program and I'm not 23 yet, I might go into another one, see what I can get under my belt. That's one thing for me, because they're pretty quick programs. I mean, not super quick, but they're 18 months. You come out certified and ready to go into a job.
Yeah.
So it's definitely worth it. And if you're also going to TCC, you also get TCC credits from the program.
Oh.
So they transfer it. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I thought, you know, might as well. I'll be able to go into the job immediately after graduation.
Yep.
And it's free. Can't complain.
No, that's for real. You can't complain about free. And so, did your parents come in support of that? Did like family come in support of that, like that decision of moving into that space?
Yeah, so I had told them that I was going to apply for it, and they were like, well, I hope you get it. You know, this probably could be a good thing for you. So once I let them know that I got into this program, they were pretty excited for me. And, you know, they've kind of asked me, like, what are you going to do with your job and everything in the fall? Because, yeah, it'll cut out a big chunk of my day and my week.
Yeah.
So I've been, finding a job that is going to navigate around that has been a bit of a struggle, but I finally did it.
That's the one.
Hopefully it pays the rent.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And so, when it comes to, and you mentioned these moments over the last couple of years where you found yourself almost like, cracking, right? Is there any like fear or worry that you might experience that again, or do you feel like you've grown a lot out of that?
So, I feel like have grown a lot, and I've also pushed myself to get myself out of that situation, and I've moved myself out of my parents' house. I feel like that could have been a big factor for me.
Yeah.
And I've been doing a lot to hold those boundaries and be able to say no, because I feel like that lack of boundaries and not being able to focus on myself was a big part of that. And, coming from a Hispanic household, you struggle a lot with those boundaries and like not being able to say no, because there's a guilt in doing that. And I felt like moving out was the best thing for me. Yeah. Even though, they might not have liked it, I feel like that's the only way I'll probably be able to get through school.
Yeah. And so there was maybe a little bit of a wrestle. It sounds like there was a little bit of a wrestle in kind of creating that space and creating that boundary. But overall, it sounds like there's still some level of respect, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay. No, that's what's up. That's what's up. Okay, so right now, currently in your life, what are some things that you're dealing with? Or what are some challenges? Or what are some opportunities that you see? Or some good things happening?
So right now, one thing for me is I'm trying to get out of my comfort zone. Coming on this podcast,
Yeah.
trying to, hang out with new people, experience new things. It's summer, and I went floating the river this last weekend, and I haven't gone since I was 12 because our boat flipped, and I got stuck under a tree. So I've been terrified to go back. So I went back finally.
Man. Wait, when you say floating the river, are you talking about the river here in Tulsa?
Tahlequah.
Tahlequah. Oh yes, they got the floats out there.
Yeah. So.
Man, and that was so that must have been intense going back out there.
Yeah, I was a little scared, but I had my boyfriend with me, and I was like, okay, he won't let me die. Hopefully. Hopefully.
That's it right there. Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So you're conquering fears and getting out there, getting uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So what was probably one of the most things that you're proud and excited about over the summer?
So I moved out last month in May. So it's new, and I think that's my biggest accomplishment. For now, because it's something I've been wanting to do since I was 18. I've always tried to push myself, and I've struggled with it, and I've struggled, leaving my siblings at home, but they're always welcome at my place, and they know that, and I'm not too far, so.
Yeah. Do you sense or feel like you're experiencing flashbacks to the Rogers State experience, or do you feel like this is a flashback, but a beautiful version of it?
Yes. I think, yes. I'm also not alone this time. I have a roommate.
That's good.
So it's not completely isolating, and it's my boyfriend's sister, so we get along real well, and I've known them for years. So we were like, okay, it's time to do it. And we've had a good time. We get along real well. We have the same style, so no fights over decorations or anything.
That's good.
So yeah, we've just been taking it a day at a time, and it's been a good experience so far.
Yeah. And so looking forward to this program, what is something that you are nervous about and what's something you're excited about?
Nervous because the last time I was in a Tulsa Tech program, I was 16. And I feel like...
Which program was that?
It was not medical assisting. It's the one before that, health science. It was a health science program. Okay. And I was supposed to go into a medical assisting one after, but I didn't end up doing it. But I really did enjoy the class because it felt like it was challenging in a way that I was able to enjoy. And at that time, it was like while COVID was happening and anything in like high school really wasn't very challenging. It was just like everybody was kind of coasting.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like after COVID, I really just didn't really try in high school, unfortunately. So for me, like I've lacked focus since
Yeah.
then, and I think that this will be a good push for me in being able to like discipline myself and be strict and being able to know that I can do it again.
Yeah. And what is like that class setup? Like how does it work when you get to program?
So I think it's like 3 classes in one. So you're there for like 3 hours a day. I think it has like a vocab class, basically, like all the words, terminologies that you're gonna need, um, the way, like they function and like the offices and like all the
Mm-hmm.
things you're gonna know. Like I think it's like the cases and everything that you need to know. And then there's also a part where you need to go out in the field and work.
Yeah.
And so there's that and the classes.
Okay.
So, and you'll come back it's kind of almost like clinicals. I just don't know what they call it in that program. But so when you do that, you'll just come back once a week and like take tests and everything.
Yeah. And so if I'm hearing you right, one of the things you're thinking about is like, okay, being able to like lock back in and focus and to build that back up after
Right.
COVID. That's interesting. It's interesting also kind of hearing like what took place after COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm just curious. I
Yeah.
guess part of me is now kind of curious about that. So going through high school and COVID, was there anything else that you felt like really died off after COVID, like that you noticed a drastic change in, other than academically it was hard to focus? Was there anything else that you experienced, like socially? Like how was like what
Socially.
were?
I feel like there was more like social media presence, like TikTok and everything blew up during that time.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, of course, before everybody was like on Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, maybe.
Yeah.
But I think TikTok also was like a big thing. And I know a lot of people talk about it, but it's crazy to see like everywhere you go, like somebody's sitting waiting in line or something, they're on TikTok. Even Instagram has their own version of TikTok now.
Yeah.
So it's just, that's another thing is like we're also way more into our phones because we were so isolated for a while. And that is definitely a big thing right now, I think.
No, that's interesting. Do you feel like maybe some of that played into your experience in college, like a place where you're supposed to be surrounded by a bunch of people all the time?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like that experience rolled over in impacting your college experience?
I feel like a little bit because one thing I wanted was, to experience like being around all these people, but RSU is such a small campus. Not a lot of people stay there. So there's not a lot of campus like activities and things like that. Once like Wednesday hits, campus dies. There's nothing going on, really. So yeah, like you have to look for the activities. You have to know what's going on. And if you're not really part of like any groups or anything, there's no point in being on the campus.
Yeah.
So when I was there, I actually joined a sorority briefly.
Okay.
But I didn't stay at RSU. But I feel like if I would have stayed or maybe gone to a different school where sorority and Greek life was bigger, I could have enjoyed it. I think also like when I was in high school, I had a teacher, who kind of talked to me about like her experience in Greek life, and I thought maybe that could help me because I feel like at that time I was kind of like low on friends, didn't really hang around anybody. More like acquaintances here and there.
Yeah.
And so I thought, like maybe that would be a good experience. And I don't know if you've ever watched the show Greek. Have you ever seen that?
I have not.
Okay,
seen
it's
it.
like a 2000 show. Binge watched it. right before going off to RSU, and I was like, oh yeah, totally. No, not even close. There was only like 2 sororities and 1 frat, and they weren't even like established at RSU, so it wasn't like a
Yeah.
lot, but they tried. It was
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
It sounds like it was just a tad bit of a like flop experience. Like you got there, like, oh, I didn't really live up to the expectations that I had.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
No, so. I know when you said you went to TCC, like you were taking like night classes and things of that nature. But were you able to maybe experience like some friendships that blossomed out of there?
No.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I didn't talk a lot. I just went to class and left. Um, I wish I would have like talked maybe a little bit more like during classes and everything, like I would talk to people, but it never went anywhere outside of like TCC.
Yeah. No, I was just curious. Do you so right now in kind of your self-care journey, do you incorporate like some aspect of community in that? Like,
Yes. So for me, I've been, trying to reconnect with some of my friends um, from high school. I've also have 2 very good friends from RSU that I met through the sorority. I actually hung out with one of them yesterday, and it's just so funny, like, to see how we're still connecting after I think 3 years and like still making the effort to like hang out and see each other. And also, like, my boyfriend's family is like a big sense of like family and community for me as well. Like, a very supportive.
yeah,
They invite me to everything, and I feel like I'm part of the family already. So
100%. No, that's awesome. It's cool. It's cool to see that you are like leaning into that space too. Because sometimes when we think of self care, we think of self care being, I gotta take care of me in a corner over here. But
mhm.
part of self care is connecting with people as well. People that fuel you, right? People
Mhm.
that give you life. And so it's good to hear that you are incorporating that in this whole journey.
Yeah, because I think like my big thing is I isolate myself. Like when I'm having a hard time. Um, so my thing is like I have to stop doing that.
I feel you, especially going into like a season where you're gonna be incorporating work and schooling,
Hmm.
and so that's gonna be key.
Yeah, because it's gonna be rough, to coordinate all that stuff. Like when school starts and everything. I mean, even starting these 2 new jobs, I've been like, how am I gonna hang out with my friends? Which I know, it's not always priority, but like I want to see my people.
Yep.
And so I've been like trying to coordinate these like 2 completely different schedules.
Hmm.
So yeah.
And it's cool to hear you also have like connections from Roger State
Mhm.
too that you connected with and hang out with.
Yeah. Um, yeah, we met through the sorority and we just kind of never let each other go.
That's the way to do it. Okay,
Yeah.
so when it comes to like what you see down the road and future life, like where do you see yourself down the road? And it could be after the program, like job work, or you can feel free to go 20, 30, 40 years into the future,
Yeah.
whatever you like.
So for me, like finishing the program first, like I said earlier, if I have the opportunity to go into another program and come out certified in that, I would love to do that. Get as many things under my belt, to see what I can go into. I also want to experience like all kinds of different jobs because if I'm being honest, I really don't know what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so experiencing and learning all these different like jobs and educating myself in different things probably could help me find it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be stuck in something that I don't feel like I'm making an impact in, or I'm just, there punching numbers.
Yeah.
So I want to do something where I know it matters or I'm actually connecting with people. And that's one thing that I've really liked about food and retail. It's because you're there and connecting with people. You know, some people think, you know, it's maybe not the best jobs or whatever,
Yeah.
but I do enjoy, you know, like connecting and having these conversations with people on the day to day. And that's one thing I've definitely missed. So that's important for me in the future, and knowing that I'll have that.
Yeah, especially considering, I still, my brain still thinks about like the whole communications
Mm-hmm.
thing, and you saying like you enjoy that, connecting.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm curious to know like what is, if there's like if there's a space that you can go into, right? Like if you could have any possibility, what is something that you're like, man, I'd be really curious to jump into this space.
I feel like fashion,
Okay.
because of how inclusive and like diverse things are starting to be, and I would love to be a part of that and talk to all kinds of different people, you know, who are either like supporting the brand or being a face of the brand.
Yeah.
And I think that would be very cool because they also do a lot of like community outreaches
Mm-hmm.
now, and I I would love to be a part of that.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Because especially considering when you we were talking the whole communications thing, you said public relations, right? Like I think that's a big piece of public relations. I don't know, I'm not really too savvy in that
Yeah.
area, but I think that's like the whole face of the brand and connecting with the community and all that. And so that's cool to hear that. I was just curious to know what that would be. Is there any other aspect of your life that you're like, in the future I see this?
I want something that's definitely gonna be like flexible, because I know, you know, like there's some jobs where it's like you're gonna have to put more than 40 hours, doesn't matter. And I don't want that. I want to be able to like separate work and home. And
Yeah.
that's one big thing for me too. It's like I my dad, he owns a company.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing about my parents is they don't know how to leave work at work, and they come home talking about work, and like I've worked for them, so they're like, we need you to do this and this and this tomorrow. It's like 9 o'clock at night. I'm like trying to do my homework, and I'm like, girl, we could talk about this in the morning.
That's real.
So yeah, that is a big thing for me.
It's so interesting too, because like I think from almost the start of doing this whole like podcast thing and connecting and talking and hear people's stories, when people talk about where they see themselves, it's so beautiful to see a generation that's growing up that's saying like, listen, I want work to be work and I want family to be family. Like I want to be able to, have that balance, have that space. Like I want to be able to, some people, I want to be able to travel, but at the same time come back and work and
Mm-hmm.
have those two kind of like separate, having one supporting another. My work supports my family or dreams or whatever I want to do. Uh, so I'm saying hearing that is really cool to see. And so, do you feel like right now in your life, do you have modes where you get to express the fashion concept? Because I know you mentioned the fashion. Do you feel like you have spaces to explore that, or is it kind of like something you just enjoy doing for yourself when you get up in the morning?
Um, I like doing it for myself, and then like I'm on TikTok, so sometimes like I'll post like stuff I buy or stuff that I'm wearing,
Mm-hmm.
or just things like that. And I have my sister and my aunt who have a little bit of a similar style to me, so we like always like bounce back and forth, like, oh, you should wear this with that, or like it's just cool to see, you know, like how expressive people can be,
Mm-hmm.
and just the way they dress.
Yeah, no,
Pretty
that's
cool.
what's up. That's what's up. Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah.
Um, you know, especially with the whole like, I mean, podcast is called The Fitting Room, so
Right.
no, just no, but as we kind of come to the close of the pod, just and I kind of like to give space for people to share a nugget that they've learned on their journey. But if you could speak to Joey at um, maybe in that transitionary period when she was at Rogers State and she felt isolated, she wanted some level of community support, her family, is back home. Like if you could share like words for her and encouragement for her, what would you say to Joey?
I would say don't focus on the wrong things. focus on the things that are going right and just get up and do it. There's nothing that you're not able to do. And you have so many people that are going to support you, and you have to let them support you. You just got to get through it, and it'll be over. There's no way out of it until you get through it.
I like that. Especially, I like the part where you said that there's people that want to support you. You got to let them support you. Yeah, we got to let them support us.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to have a mindset of like, I can do it my own, or I can do it by myself, or I don't need you, or like, even to go through a time frame where it's like, my family's not reaching out to me. Forget my family. Like, I can figure this all by myself. I don't need my family. I don't need them. Like, we can kind of like push people away who truly do want to be there for us and support us. And so I really appreciate that you share that, and also like getting through, right? Because sometimes we, especially like just looking at like where you are today, where the first time leaving home, Rogers State wasn't the greatest experience, but you kept going through, and then now, last month leaving home, getting that apartment, it's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah. You have to learn from it. Like, you can't just be like, okay, well, I'm gonna give up. You have to keep trying and learning and be like, okay, well, it didn't work that time, maybe it'll work this time.
Yeah.
So you can't give up, and you gotta learn for sure.
And there's a word that you said, and at first I was gonna say something earlier, but I guess now is a better time to bring up this word that you said. But you said this word, failure, right? Like you were experiencing failure or something of the sort. But I remember you said the word failure, and it's like, that's like the lessons that we learn along the way. Like when we mess up or fall short or do something that we don't think is best, or we enter a program and then we come out, right? Like, these things are actually teaching us, helping us to grow, helping us to figure out life. And it's better to try to make these transitions at 20 years old than 50 years old.
Right.
Right. And so it's cool. It's cool to hear kind of where you are today and navigate. And I think there's a lot of students that are dealing with that. They're trying to figure out. They're trying to navigate what to do next. They're trying to figure out the next steps. And it's cool to know that when you just push through and you keep going, it's like on the other side, it's beautiful.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's going to continue to be beauty in your story. So I'm excited. Thank you so much. This was awesome. I appreciate you for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. It was nice being able to just yap and let it out.
Yes, and it was awesome being able to listen. For all those that tuned in, we want to thank y'all so much for tuning in to the Fitting Room. And if you're at TCCTU or ORU and you want to share your story, we would love to have you on. Feel free to message me, fill out the Google form, whatever you need to do, and we'll get you on. And so until then, we hope that y'all see how you fit in the Fitting Room. Peace.
That was good.
That was awesome. That was phenomenal.